The Marvel Cinematic Universe now comprises some 20 films and is inarguably the greatest feat in cinematic history on both a critical and commercial level. But these films don't always get released in chronological order. Add on to that the fact that Marvel also has nearly a dozen shows and other content that brings the MCU's total watch time to over 10 days in length. With every release, the universe grows larger and more complicated, especially when you try to place each project side by side on a timeline. What is the best way to watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order without breaking up the films and shows unnecessarily? That's where we come in. How's it going, guys and geeks? Welcome to the Geekritique Show. My name is Dakota. Ever since we released version 4 of our Marvel Cinematic Universe Chronological Timeline, which, by the way, is our most viewed and liked video ever, so thank you. But ever since we released that, you guys have been asking us non-stop when we're going to be releasing the next version, the next update. Suffice it to say, we heard you. So welcome to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Chronological Timeline version 5.0, released the week of July 4th. We've got a lot to cover and a few corrections in terms of where certain items take place. We'll show you where Jessica Jones Season 2 takes place, walk you through the curious placement of Cloak and Dagger's first season, explain why Ant-Man and the Wasp occurs where it does, and break down why Luke Cage Season 2 has potentially timeline-breaking consequences for the MCU. But before we do all that, we should set some ground rules. Rule 1. When the majority of a film or show takes place in a certain time period, that's where we'll place it on the timeline, unless the character's relative chronology differs from the literal order of events. In that case, we'll prioritize the character's viewpoint. Rule 2. The end credits scenes often take place at different times in the films they're attached to, and won't affect their placement on this timeline. 3. We won't be starting or stopping films or shows to facilitate flashback sequences, so this is the best way to watch the movies and shows without breaking them up unnecessarily. 4. Only films and shows that we can place with a reasonable certainty are included on this timeline, so we won't place unreleased items on this list unless we know exactly where they fit. 5. Only live-action content is included in this list, so we won't be including comic book tie-ins, as a few of them have been deemed non-canonical. This also precludes several commercials and non-canon comedy skits. 6. None of these shows or films are in the MCU. Please stop asking. And last but not least, this list will include spoilers if we are to correctly explain why certain events take place in the order that they do.
Grenade!
Captain America: The First Avenger isn't the first film to be released, but takes place before the events of any other film or TV show, with the exception of the odd flashback or two in certain films or series. Using the first rule on our list helps us place this right at the start of the MCU. The end of The First Avenger sees Steve Rogers in, relative to release, present-day New York City, which turns out to be Fury's big week, something we'll talk about in a moment. Before we do that, let's go back to the 40s as Peggy Carter plants the seeds that will eventually become S.H.I.E.L.D. in Marvel's Agent Carter Season 1. Then, of course, watch Season 2.
We have a locked position on Zodiac.
Next, you should watch the Marvel one-shot Agent Carter, a short film available on the Iron Man 3 home video release, which sees the birth of S.H.I.E.L.D. As of this upload, we don't have any footage of the Captain Marvel film, but it has been announced that it is set primarily in the 90s. Leaving the 90s behind, let's head over to the modern day with the release of the film that started it all, Iron Man. Though many can't remember a time where he wasn't an A-list hero, when the film was released, he was considered part of Marvel's B-list pantheon, and the film was expected to underperform. Its success paved the way for other B and C-list heroes to make their on-screen debut. And thus starts Fury's big week, which is a number of films that take place roughly around the same one-week period. It's confusing, so instead of stopping and starting each individual film after every few scenes, let's find the best viewing timeline. Many of the films here overlap, so we'll take the location of the majority of each film and place it accordingly. We'll use rules 1 through 3 here. The next film you'll wish to take up is technically Iron Man 2, which takes place concurrently with The Incredible Hulk and Thor, though the majority of the movie occurs before the other two. The Incredible Hulk is often confused to take place before Iron Man 2, but the majority of the film takes place after Iron Man 2, according to the events outlined in Fury's Big Week. The Incredible Hulk is the only solo Hulk film that is part of the MCU canon. After The Incredible Hulk, watch A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer, found on the Captain America the First Avenger Blu-ray release. And then, yep, Thor comes next.
Oh my God.
We have another Marvel one-shot after Thor in The Consultant. Both Agent Phil Coulson and Jasper Sitwell make return appearances.
I'm bringing the party to you.
I don't see how that's a party.
Since its release, The Avengers, the first major superhero crossover epic ever, has become one of the biggest success stories in Hollywood history. It proved to the world that an ensemble cast that comprised multiple franchises could work as a singular team, and was hugely influential in the way Hollywood has approached franchises, as well as cinematic universes, in the years since. In the wake of the Chitauri invasion, some alien tech gets in the hands of the wrong people, which is where the Item 47 one-shot takes place. Iron Man 3 sees our hero dealing with some serious post-traumatic stress after the events of the Avengers. We also get a fake villain in the Mandarin, which upset a lot of fans who felt it was a bit of a cop-out.
Where? Where's the Mandarin? Where is it?
Whoa, he's here. He's here, but he's not here. He's here, but he's not here.
What do you mean?
It's complicated.
Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division.
And what does that mean to you?
Means someone really wanted our initials to spell out S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes chronologically next on the timeline. And take note, it is the only show with logical breaks that other films and series can fit within its seasons without disrupting the narrative. The first season of Marvel's lineup of interconnected live-action shows should be watched up through episode 7. Thor: The Dark World sees the God of Thunder returning to protect Midgard, aka Earth, from the Dark Elves. Fun fact, this film was the worst received critically out of all 20 Marvel Cinematic Universe films according to Rotten Tomatoes' aggregate score, and it still somehow manages to have a fresh rating.
I've got this completely under control.
Is that why everything's on fire?
All Hail the King makes some moves at fixing the Mandarin issue people had with Iron Man 3. In this Marvel one-shot that takes place 6 months after Iron Man 3, we find the actor who portrayed the fake Mandarin is being interviewed to figure out what he really knows about the Ten Rings terrorist group. Get used to the back and forth with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from here on out. Episode 8 shares some tangential relations with Thor: The Dark World, but it's the events in Episode 16 that impact the rest of the MCU pretty heavily, because, well, Hail Hydra.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
The first time a film flipped the MCU on its head, Captain America: The Winter Soldier finds itself next on our chronological timeline. This is the first solo Cap film to take place in relative present day, and the first MCU film to be directed by the Russo brothers. The last batch of episodes, 17 through 22 from Season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sees our agents dealing with the fallout of their organization. The majority of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 takes place 26 years after 1988, so this fits snugly with its 2014 release date, and is a solid break from a less than perfect season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What are you doing?
I'm distracting you, you big turd blossom.
Next, you'll want to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 up until the mid-season break, after Episode 10. Thankfully, the show gets much better in Season 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 also takes place in 2014, just a mere 3 months after the first film, as opposed to its release in 2017. This makes sense as the Ravagers have not caught up with them as of this point, and Baby Groot is... well yeah, he's still a baby.
I'm Groot. No!
While we're left in suspense as to what our favorite agents are up to, let's place the entirety of Daredevil Season 1, which ushers in the Netflix/Defenders series, into the mix. Because it takes place over the course of several months, presumably, it does run concurrently to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, episodes 11 through 19, but there's no way to correctly identify which episodes fit where. Jessica Jones Season 1 arrives next on our timeline, though it appeared later on our timeline in previous versions. Growing understanding of the Netflix timeline has helped us place this season and future seasons more appropriately. Though honestly, they're so removed from the films, it won't make that big of a difference either way.
think we need to talk.
Cloak and Dagger takes place some 8 years after the explosion of a Roxxon experiment gives Tyrone Johnson and Tandy Bowen their superpowers in April of 2007, surprisingly placing this in 2015. Our Avengers team up again in Age of Ultron with the inclusion of several new core team members: Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver. Thor and Hulk leave Earth by the close of this film, and 2 years pass before we see them again. After Age of Ultron, we'll place the final 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, which has some minor tie-in cameos. WHIH Newsfront comes next on the timeline, as it's an in-universe news program meant to drum up attention to the next incoming Marvel film. You can find these on YouTube, as it's a free web series. This is a 4-part series that takes place in July of 2015.
Mr. Lang, how are you?
Well, I'm still in prison, so, bad.
Ant-Man follows closely after the events outlined in the WHIH Newsfront videos, as we see Scott Lang take up the mantle of the MCU's tiniest hero.
Hi, I'm Scott.
Did he just say, hi, I'm Scott?
What are you doing here? First off, I'm a big fan. Appreciate it. So who the hell are you? I'm Ant-Man. Ant-Man? What, you haven't heard of me? No, you wouldn't have heard of me.
Next, we want to again visit Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Season 3, but only up until the mid-season break, after Episode 10. Daredevil Season 2 comes next on the timeline and introduces us to the Punisher and Elektra. Most of Daredevil Season 2 occurs before Episodes 11 through 19 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, but some occurs concurrently, so we'll place that here instead of unnecessarily breaking the seasons apart. That said, we do get this fun little Easter egg where they reference a gang war in Hell's Kitchen, which is a direct tie to Daredevil Season 2. Luke Cage comes a few months after Jessica Jones and perhaps a month after Daredevil Season 2, if not partially concurrently, so we'll place his first season right here. Iron Fist's debut season gets moved up quite a bit as it takes place some short months after Luke Cage's first season. Please note, the time that passes between events in the Netflix shows does not correlate to the time of year the shows are filmed in, making their placement exceptionally frustrating. The Defenders' first season, the team-up of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist occurs 1 month after the events of Iron Fist, and sees the four pick up most of the loose threads that need tying up from both Daredevil Season 2 and Iron Fist Season 1.
What's the deal? I'm the immortal Iron Fist. You what?
WHIH Newsfront appears again with 5 short clips from April to May 2016 that help unveil the events about to take shape in Captain America: Civil War. Here, our heroes find themselves at an impasse divided between conflicting ideals of freedom and regulation. Though not quite an Avengers film exactly, it does feature more team members than any other film to date, including some new ones like Black Panther and Spider-Man.
Nice job, kid.
Thanks. Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just a new suit. Wait, it's nothing. Mr. Stark, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really need to start a conversation.
Okay. Captain? Big fan?
Speaking of Black Panther, his film arrives shortly after the events of Civil War, as he deals with the fallout of the death of his father and King T'Chaka upon returning to Wakanda. Next, you'll wish to finish off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3 with the last 3 episodes. Spider-Man Homecoming is the first and only Spider-Man iteration to be included in the MCU canon to date. The film claims to be 8 years after the Battle of New York, but the Russo brothers have since claimed this was a mistake. Only 4 years have passed. Logically, it takes place several months after Civil War and ends around Homecoming. The Punisher, available on Netflix, occurs several months after The Defenders' first season and ends around Thanksgiving of 2020. Doctor Strange's timeline occurs partially before and partially after Civil War, but because his training and the majority of the film occur after May, ending around November 2016, we're sticking to our guns and placing it here. But wait, Dakota, wasn't Stephen Strange as a threat to Hydra way back in 2014 in The Winter Soldier? Yes he was, but watch that scene again.
Zola's algorithm is a program for choosing Insight's targets.
What targets?
You, a TV anchor in Cairo, the Undersecretary of Defense, a high school valedictorian in Iowa City, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange, anyone who's a threat to Hydra. Now, or in the future.
In the future? How could it know?
How could it not?
It mentions that Zola's algorithm marks individuals as threats even if they aren't actually threats now. People that have the potential to hinder Project Insight and Hydra. Over 219,571 individuals were targeted by the program, most of whom will never get superpowers. At the time, Stephen Strange was just a potential threat. This is confirmed by Kevin Feige, who heads Marvel Studios, and it is also explained in film. Note that before Stephen has that car crash, we see this trophy dated in 2016 in his office. And his watch very explicitly says that we're in February 2016. It must also be explained that the 35-year-old Air Force colonel who broke his back due to experimental armor could not have been Rhodes from Civil War, because in canon he is 48 years of age and Civil War hasn't happened yet. But again, most of the film occurs after Civil War, with 3 to 4 months of rehab and therapy, and then what appears to be a couple months studying day and night under the Ancient One. Remember, he only actually knows like 3 tricks by the time the final battle happens. Let's jump into a 6-episode web series entitled Slingshot, which is a spin-off of Inhumans characters introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as we begin to see the Sokovia Accords affect Inhumans characters. This has been moved back some as the series takes place shortly before Season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But let's not forget about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. We'll place episodes 1 through 8 here, the Ghost Rider arc. Inhuman Season 1 must occur after this point in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, as the Inhuman registration is mentioned, though it may not occur directly after. We'll go ahead and place it here. But honestly, I haven't watched it. I don't plan to. Episodes 9 through 22 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 come chronologically next on the timeline. If you can make it to this point in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you'll likely agree that this is some of the best sci-fi TV we've seen in years. Jessica Jones Season 2 occurs some 17 years after the events that propelled her getting powers in April 2000, placing this around summer 2017, and is the first Netflix series to make mention of events post-Civil War. Hulu's first MCU show, Runaways, takes place around the beginning of the school year 2017, as we see the start of club signups and cheerleading tryouts. From what we can gather, the calendars in the show deliberately try to mislead you from guessing the correct time frame. So don't pay any attention to those.
Yo, I'm Luke Cage. You wanna test me? You know where to find me.
Luke Cage Season 2 is one of the tougher shows to place. Several dates place the show at mid to late August 2018, including a vehicle registered through 6/20, meaning it was registered in June of 2018. This is deliberate as the show was filmed in 2017. This clearly contradicts events outlined in Avengers Infinity War, which presumably occurs prior to that, and also means we haven't seen Luke Cage and friends for over 2 years since the Defenders. This isn't as bad as the Spider-Man Homecoming timeline mistake, so I'm inclined to place it in August of 2017, despite the on-screen dates. If you got a problem with that, fight me in the comment section down below. I'll be there. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 is easily the most difficult item to place chronologically on this list because the first 10 episodes take place in different timelines in 2091. But their relative timelines place these events in 2017. We'll put the first 10 episodes right there. Thor Ragnarok falls in step at the tail end of 2017 as Thor tells Banner that he's been away from Earth for 2 years, meaning it's been at least a year since Civil War took place. Though time works differently on Sakaar, the film does a great job of placing itself on the timeline. Doctor Strange also appears to be far more powerful than he was in his own film, denoting plenty of time has elapsed in between. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5's episodes 11 through 18 sees the agents return to 2018. Ant-Man was missing from the events of Avengers Infinity War, and Ant-Man and the Wasp helps explain why. He was off doing his own thing. This film occurs 2 years after Captain America Civil War, but before the major events in Avengers Infinity War.
Your dad's a superhero now, just like those Avengers.
The last 4 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 occur concurrently to the first half of Avengers Infinity War.
There was an idea.
Speaking of which, Avengers Infinity War is still the latest title on our lineup for version 5. And what a film it was. Almost all of Marvel's big screen heroes joined in the fray to stop Thanos from collecting all 6 Infinity Stones and using it to destroy half the universe. As of now, no other future projects have been expressly stated as being here or there on the timeline. So there's no point in guessing, right? If you have any issues at all with this timeline, please let us know in the comment section below. I promise I won't fight you. I might. Subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed this content and want to see more geeky content just like it. You can grab shirts just like this from our merchandise store. Thank you everyone who's bought shirts from us as of this point. We really do appreciate it. It helps us out. It keeps the lights on. Until Avengers 4 arrives, we'll be left wondering how everyone will make it through the carnage that Thanos unleashed upon the universe after he detonated that now infamous snap. Wait. I don't feel so good.